I grew up with a very international family. My mother chose Cambodia over Disneyland and sent me to Switzerland on my very first trip when I was 8 years old, alone. And so I started traveling alone since I was 8.
Welcome to a new episode of Most Memorable Journeys. My guest today is a very fascinating lady, and I will want to know a lot more about her because she has a British name. I would say it could be American, but she was born and bred in Marrakesh, and she speaks 4 languages, which British people don't normally do. But she's based in Mallorca in Spain. She is a luxury travel expert. She was featured on CNN and in Vogue, and we want to find out all about you. Welcome to Most Memorable Journeys, Sarah Casewit.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, Sarah Casewit is an English name, isn't it?
Actually, it's an American name
Okay.
with a German background.
Right. So
Yeah.
how did you be born? That's not correct English, but how were you born in Marrakesh and how did you grow up in Marrakesh? And tell us a little bit about that.
So my parents met in Morocco back in the 70s. My father is a second generation American German, and my mother is American, but spent most of her life living abroad. And she was in Morocco to learn Arabic, and my father was a backpacker, and they met in Morocco. I'm actually the fourth of my siblings. So my parents lived in Morocco for a while, and then they moved to Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and then eventually ended up back in Morocco, and that's where I was born. I was born in the city of Marrakesh way before it was popular on Instagram. And I lived in Marrakesh for 2 years. I also spent 8 years living in Fez. And I spent most of my formative years in the capital city of Rabat.
Where? Where did you spend?
In Rabat, in the
Oh, in
capital.
Rabat. Oh, in the capital of Morocco. Okay, I didn't get that. Sorry. Wow. So how did you go? Which school did you go to? Did you go to an international school or did you go to a local school?
Ah, that's such a good question because I don't actually get that often. I actually went to Moroccan schools. I studied chemistry and math and Arabic and studied geography and French and had exams where I had to memorize pages and pages of Arabic. And I went to Moroccan schools up to the ninth grade. My parents wanted to give me the opportunity to be able to study in the US if I wanted to back when I was in college. And so they decided to put me in the International American School in Rabat for the last 4 years of schooling, which was a culture shock to say the least, because I was the most Moroccan out of my entire class, and my entire class was Moroccan. And so I had a big shift in the way we think about language, the way we think about learning and analytical thinking because of the way Moroccan education is designed versus the American way of studying. So it was an interesting challenge.
Amazing. I know why, you know why I'm asking, because I have 2 children who grew up in Cyprus to a Swiss mother who I am and a Cypriot father. So they grew up trilingual, but they went to an English school. I mean, the fact that you went to an Arabic school, that is fantastic. So your Arabic is absolutely fluent.
I still speak Arabic to my brothers, and my Arabic is fluent when we speak about Moroccan dialects. And then there's classical Arabic, which is altogether a completely new language. And I still speak it, write it, and read it, but let's say it's like speaking Shakespearean. So it's
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
elevated. But
So French is the other one. Sorry, I interrupted you, but like I gather it now. It's French, English, and Arabic. What's the
yeah.
fourth?
So the fourth is Spanish.
Oh,
Yes, I spent about 10 years in Argentina, and I speak in a very strong Argentine accent, which is confusing to most people because already the story gets complicated with American born in Morocco. But then when I speak Spanish, I have a heavy Porteño accent, which just throws everything off. So, yes, I do speak Spanish as well.
So you must be shocking the hell out of people very often because, first of all, I don't think people will expect you to speak Arabic. You don't look like somebody who speaks Arabic. So you must have had a lot of fun as well about people talking about you and then realizing that, then they realize, because that happens to me. I speak Greek and I don't look like somebody who speaks Greek. And it happens to me often that they say, oh, who is this woman and what is she going to buy something? I'm sure she's not going to buy anything. And then I say something in Greek.
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, it's definitely a gift and it's also a curse. I find that speaking Arabic means that you get to play around with situations and pretend you don't understand for a while and then pop out with heavy slang and really shock people. But because I work and travel, I end up hearing a lot of comments and hearing things that I wish I didn't hear, and knowing that my clients and my travelers are probably hearing the same thing but not understanding. And so many times it's funny, and I've used it to my advantage, and I've taken much joy in the laughter that comes with it, and the shock and the surprise in people's faces. But at the same time, you don't expect to walk into one of the best hotels in the world and hearing the things that you hear. So that's the other side of it.
Yeah, I can imagine. But it is definitely a gift to be fluent because you are fluent in all those four languages. Which one would you consider your mother tongue?
Well, since having a son who is now almost 5, I speak to him in English, so I consider that to be my mother tongue. That's the language my mother spoke to me in, and I thought I'd speak to him in Arabic, but it just never came naturally to speak to him in Arabic. He speaks 3.5 languages, one of which I do not speak, which is Catalan. So we just keep adding to the mix, and I still do. It depends on the situation that I'm in. It depends on the person that I'm speaking to, and the emotional state that I'm in. So that will determine the language or that I speak with and that I think with as well.
Yeah, I was told because I had this dilemma as well when my kids were born. And I actually wrote to a psychologist 28 years ago. We didn't have any, we couldn't go online. I sent a fax to a psychologist in Switzerland because I knew that my kids would be exposed to 3 languages. And he said, you have to speak your mother tongue because that's the language that comes from your heart. And your kids are not going to notice that you're speaking 3 different languages. They will just know 3 words for a glass. And that's how it's happening. And they are fluent as well.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's a massive blessing. And I'm very happy that I can carry on the family tradition of speaking more than 3 languages with my son. And it also, I find in the past few years, I've found that it develops completely different sides to yourself. Different personalities are associated with the different languages that you speak, because a language hosts a tradition and a culture. It's the house of an entire history and civilization, and so with that weight it carries, it also transforms who you are. So when I speak in Arabic and I'm in Morocco, I'm almost unrecognizable to those who know me in the US and speaking only English. So it's your nonverbal communication changes, your body language changes, also your reactions and your ways of reacting to certain situations are altered. So there is a big power in speaking different languages to adapt to different situations and people.
So true. So true. And I also feel like if you live in a country, you have to learn the language because it will help you understand the culture. It will help you understand the mentality. It's a big, big plus. So you really are, you're amazing. I mean, because Arabic is a difficult language, but if you have a chance to learn it the way you did, it's fantastic. It's my dream. It's always been my dream to learn. I will probably 95% die without fulfilling my dream, but who knows?
Oh, no, who knows? I think Arabic is one of the most beautiful languages, and it's also tangible because it's a clean slate for you. It's not associated with other languages. I'm having a very difficult time learning Catalan because I think French, Spanish, and I get confused with the wording and the way things are spelled and pronounced. But with Arabic, it's a clean slate. You just start from scratch. It's like learning Japanese. It becomes a dance and a game, and obviously very good for the brain to learn a new language. The beauty of Arabic is that if you speak some modern classical Arabic, then you can speak in all Arabic speaking countries and understand pretty much all dialects. So it's the key to really traveling deeply and getting to know the local traditions, the reasons behind them, and of course, getting invited to people's homes.
And that's the most beautiful part, isn't it? Because the most beautiful hospitality, I think, is in all those countries where people speak Arabic. But that's another story.
Yeah.
We said we were not going to go into politics.
Yes, of course.
So let's talk about travel because, this is really a travel podcast, but I don't want it to be only a travel podcast. Its most memorable journeys means life is a journey. And how did it start? What made you go into travel? Because did you already work in travel when you were in Argentina?
Actually, it started way before then. I grew up with a very international family. My mother chose Cambodia over Disneyland and sent me to Switzerland on my very first trip when I was 8 years old, alone. And so I started traveling alone since I was 8. I remember one time things went really badly. That time I was actually 4 and my brother was 5. We were in a summer camp in the south of France, which sounds fancy, but it was actually in the countryside and just quite simple. Our ride dropped us off at the Marseille airport and just left us at the curbside. And I was 4 and my brother was 5. So that experience really shaped many ways in which I choose to travel these days. But joking aside, I started working in travel in Buenos Aires professionally, but I was leading trips at a very young age, assisting different Fulbright groups in Mali. The most impactful moment for me was in Mali as a 15-year-old, and really learning about different ways of life and quantifying happiness and seeing what happiness looks like in different settings, and understanding that it's not linked to, quantity of things, but quality of life. And that was something that I learned very, very early on. And the second trip that impacted me as a child was Cambodia, and seeing the level of poverty and the impact of the Khmer Rouge regime and how it had completely physically shaped a community and a society. Seeing that, as a teenager as well, really impacts you. And I feel that that's important for people growing up in the world to see how complicated the world is through travel. And I began my career working for a tour operator in Buenos Aires and designing trips to South America.
So that's when but you see, I mean, you were born with the travel bug. It didn't bite you anytime because of your background and because of your parents. And I think you can't help it but liking it. But what you were saying before about Mali and happiness, I want to get into that happiness thing a little bit because you do design luxury travel, though. I was a tour guide when I was young, and I noticed one thing, that the more expensive the trips were that I accompanied, usually the more miserable my clients were because they had a lot of money, but they had a lot of problems as well. Have you ever experienced something like that? They're more demanding.
Oh, yes. That is the challenge that I choose to place before me is I wouldn't generalize, right? Some people
No,
are
no, but
some people are fortunate and blessed with a lifestyle, and they are able to travel in certain ways. But I love the challenge of being given the opportunity to say, you have the chance to transform a life here and to show a new perspective. And so I do take lower budget trips, and I design group trips as well for women, for empowerment and building self-worth and confidence through my Eunoia chapters retreats. So that's completely different from luxury travel. But I do enjoy the fact that with a certain budget, you can lean into more remote locations. You can go deeper into Ethiopia where there's no infrastructure, where you need that budget to go further. So in my mind, I do need to use the term luxury because I am using high-end properties and I offer that service. But I definitely shy away from the Ritz-Carlton experience, and I use the budget towards immersive journeys and really trying to put clients comfortably and safely in a unique space that will eventually and hopefully transform them. So when they come back and they say that was a trip of a lifetime, my job there is done, I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, because you mentioned the right word. Safety is a big issue. Because you kind of, for everything that you design, you kind of feel responsible, don't you? Because you sent them there.
Absolutely. And I really don't let clients go anywhere if I have not been there myself. I recently returned from a trip to northern Italy. Although I hadn't been specifically to the village where I have some clients traveling next summer. I wanted to make sure that it was beautiful, and you can experience things online as you do in person. Every place has an energy and a certain feel to the people. So I find that beyond comfort and safety, it's just the promise of a transformative experience comes with the how the five senses are engaged with the environment. But safety as well, of course, is one of my biggest concerns. My favorite destinations happen to be remote, difficult destinations like Kashmir and Ethiopia, Syria, South India, Sri Lanka, places that are currently going through difficult times. And I find that you just have to pause for a while until they become safe again, because those are the places that transformed me. So keeping it authentic to myself and learning from what really changed me, that's where I find real joy in working in travel.
Yeah, you said it right. You have to pause because there is no need in going to a place which is where there is unrest. There's many other places that one can go to and wait a little bit and then eventually go. You know, like Syria, for me, Syria is literally 50 minutes flight from here where I am in Cyprus. And I have never made it to Syria. I always wanted to, never did. And now, you know, right now it's not a good idea, but hopefully it will calm down and we will be able to go to Syria again, because it's another one of those beautiful hospitality, colorful spice places that I love.
Yes.
What would be what is your favorite place? That's always a bit of a difficult question. I find it a stupid question, but I still ask it everybody because do you have a favorite place?
It's very difficult to answer because given my background, every place sort of feeds a side of me and breathes in some life into my love for travel. Currently, I have an obsession with my home city of Marrakesh. For some reason, this whole year has revolved around that city, and I've had very powerful experiences in Marrakesh this year. I wouldn't say it's my favorite destination because, it's very hard to compare flying over the Blue Hole in Belize and going to Patagonia and South India and Oman. I mean, Syria, Damascus. I truly have a hard time answering that question, but if I have to have a quick answer, it would be Morocco, because it's a place where people could still go freely and easily. And I want to give people hope that there's life-changing places that are available at their fingertips, and Marrakesh is one of them.
I was in Marrakesh this year, actually, in April, and I had never been before. And I was so surprised. First of all, I was surprised about how beautiful it is. And, one thing that really makes an impression on me that is that they don't build anything high. They don't destroy the country with all these towers and high rises. And the other thing, the other side, or something that I like, is a little luxury. And having a coffee at La Mamunia, or it's part of. It may not be part of a Morocco experience, but once in a while you need that in between the local stuff. So yeah, I agree with you. I could. I don't know what my favorite place is in the world, but I would. If you say Marrakesh, yes, I
understand.
I
Yeah.
will just totally understand.
As a photographer as well, there's something in Marrakesh that people often comment about, which is the lighting and the colors. I mean, it's not that I think I know. I actually know why the lighting is different there. The light hits differently, and it's because of the red colors, the red adobe color of the walls. So the light really hits in a different way in Marrakesh, and that makes for those very warm sort of rays that come through the slits in the Medina. And of course, pampering yourself at Ramamonia, if you're able to, I think it's a great experience.
Yeah, I couldn't afford to stay, but I could afford to have a drink.
Yeah.
So you design trips. How if somebody listens to us and thinks, oh, this lady sounds cool, I want her to organize a trip for me. How does it work? People get in touch with you and they tell you what they want, or you suggest things? What's the process?
Well, designing a trip is to me, a very personal experience. These are your 2 to 4 weeks a year where you have saved money, you have saved time, and you are carving out time in your year to experience a new country. I take that as a responsibility, and I take it very seriously. I also want the traveler or the client to feel comfortable with me. So the first thing I do is I arrange a phone call by video or just a normal phone call to understand where they're coming from, what they're looking for, what's important to them in life, and what's important to them when they travel. And I usually provide a suggestion, but before all of those steps, I am listening. I think that it's very important to listen to people because every trip is different. I don't have a deck of itineraries that are, handed over to clients. Everything is designed from scratch, and I do not work on a mass scale anymore. I come from different companies and have worked in different fields within the travel industry. I've experienced the corporate world, the startup world, the super high luxury, high net worth, travel experiences. And right now I'm just focusing on immersive itineraries, beautiful stays, smaller, more boutique properties, places that really allow you to experience the local culture. And once we have that phone call and I have a sense of what they're looking for, I provide an itinerary. And it sort of goes like a conversation, just like we're having now, where back and forth until the client feels comfortable. I want that sense of comfort because then they open up and I can personalize their itinerary based on what I understand from them.
Yeah, and that's a thing that you said beautifully, because it's people's 2 3 weeks a year. They wait for that. And I think if they choose a place, the least we can do for them is treat them well. I see that in hotels, and take them seriously and understand when something isn't going well or whatever. But it's very important. Do you remember what was your most expensive trip you ever organized?
Yes, I mean, I'm embarrassed to say.
You don't have to. It's fine.
No, I can tell you. I can definitely tell you. It's quite shocking. It was $720,000. but it was for a royal family.
Mm-hmm.
And it involved a playground designer. It's just to give you
The size of the project.
the size of the project and just the different angles of which we were approaching this trip. It wasn't just a trip. There had to be a playground designer on hand who designed playgrounds for the children as they traveled.
Mm-hmm.
So those are not my favorite itineraries, except when you can get creative with different cultural experiences and festivals that you reenact. What I love about them is knowing that I'm, in a way, contributing to a microeconomy surrounding that trip. So that trip took place in India and in different impoverished locations in India. On the one hand, its extravagance is completely nonsensical. On the other hand, it employed over 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a balance. I choose to be ethical and think about things and really have an intention behind everything. Because one can sell. If you've been in the industry for 15 years, you can just sell the cruises and keep going at it. But I really just enjoy the intention. In Morocco, I was raised with the idea of all actions come with an intention. And so I think that just got infused in the way I think about business as well.
Very fascinating. The retreats. You've started organizing retreats. I think that's pretty new, isn't it? Are
Yes,
those
yes.
retreats that you give, that you teach, or do you bring people to contribute?
Well, it's actually quite a unique retreat setting. Basically, what happened was over the last 30 some years of my life, I've been meeting incredible women that I know for an hour or for 5 years, and they just are so inspiring and they remind me of each other, right? So I was in a car in the south of Morocco. Visiting the rose harvest in Ouarzazate, and I was with a photographer, a woman from the south of France, and I just had that spark with her, and I wanted her to meet all the other women that inspired me just as she inspired me. So I had this idea. I said, why not put them together in a house for a week? And I worked with a leadership coach, Ariana van der Plas, who's based in Zurich. And together we designed a retreat, but I had certain non-negotiable guidelines. One of them is no alcohol, because if you're trying to relax, you need to work towards it. And I want you to do the work. I want you to work towards finding the place where you get comfortable and you relax. And that was mind-blowing, how it impacted the quality of the conversations and the elevated sense of the retreat. The second thing was equal contribution. So everyone had to contribute a workshop. I didn't want to lead. I didn't want to be the host. I hosted the retreat, but I don't consider myself some leader. I am someone who's bringing people together in a beautiful space and making sure the logistics are top notch. But I do believe that everyone has a story and value to add. And so every single person who came to the retreat had a moment to share some of their knowledge. Some of them were lawyers, some of them were Chinese medicine doctors, some of them were health practitioners. And it just brought so much diversity to the conversations and the discussions. The other guideline that I had that I wanted to stick to was elegance in dress. Jeans, leggings, sweatpants were not allowed. That made a lot of people uncomfortable at first when they were packing. It was very funny to get the messages, how fancy are we talking? And I told everyone that no one will exceed my level of fancy because I'm going overboard so that everyone feels comfortable. So I will always be overdressed to make sure that everyone else feels comfortable in whatever they're wearing. And when you're wearing a beautiful dress or a beautiful outfit, your posture immediately goes straight, and you sit at the edge of your seat instead of slouching, and immediately even the neurons in your brain are more active and you speak more elegantly. So those were the four main elements of the retreat. There was also a voluntary anonymous sponsorship where women who had the means could anonymously sponsor a fund for women who did not have the means. And so 2 women out of the 12 were actually sponsored, and no one knows who was who. So that was also adds the diversity of different perspectives. And the first one took place naturally in Marrakesh because I thought I had to pay tribute to my homeland. And it was an incredible experience. I don't know if you have specific questions about it, but that's the general gist. And it's about, there's no main theme in the retreats. It's about being you and just being and having a beautiful space and connecting with a destination along with like-spirited women and really enjoying beauty and leaning into our femininity and building self-worth and self-confidence and empowering women to lean into that yin energy.
Wow, that's a fantastic idea. And the sponsoring is a fantastic idea. And the other bit, which I absolutely love, is that everybody has to participate. Everybody has to do a workshop because, first of all, it gives people a lot of confidence to actually, I mean, first they are terrified when you tell them that they have to do it. But once they've done it, they grow 2-3 centimeters because they feel so good. And what you're saying as well about the dressing, we forget that so often. You know, we walk around in God knows what, and it's so true that you walk different, you stand different, you smell different. It's a big thing, and amazing idea. Are you going to do it again?
Yes, I would love for you to come to the next one. It's in Essaouira on the coast.
I've been to Essaouira.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes.
I have one coming up in Mallorca, but I think I'd like to focus on Morocco because there's something about it that really makes it special. The side of me that comes out is the side of me that I want to continue to nurture in these retreats. And it's the side that's hospitable. It's the side of me that has adapted to the Moroccan culture of receiving guests, of making sure everyone is happy, of overfeeding.
Oh, yes, here we go. Like the biggest worry is the biggest worry of a housewife is that somebody could leave the house hungry.
Yes, exactly. And so I want to continue leaning in on that side of myself. And so the next retreat is in June, June 12th to the 17th in Essaouira. And we're working with a leadership coach to make sure that the conversations sort of breed goodness and confidence and beauty and empower us to be ourselves. And there are 2 things about the retreats. I mean, there's many takeaways, but one is the intention setting that we did in the beginning of the retreats and the realization that this is very difficult and we are humans with a nervous system trying to pretend that this is all fun and easy, but actually being around people you do not know is quite nerve-wracking and is an attack on the nervous system. So we all appreciated that. And also at the end of the retreat, I asked everyone to speak about their experience. Given that it's my first, I wanted to learn more about how it had changed them. And of course, it ended up with tears. Many women said that it was the first time that they were welcomed to be themselves for such consecutive days. And I thought that was almost shocking, that we are not ourselves.
Isn't that amazing that we have to pretend so much? We pretend to be liked. We pretend we hide stuff and not realizing that everybody else is doing it too. If we were all a little bit more open and honest, things would be so much easier. And when you lie, you always have to concentrate on what you said instead of just telling how things are. It's a lot.
Yes, and there's an energy to a room of relaxed women. It's a very, very powerful and dangerous energy because when you have a group of relaxed women, they can take over the world.
Oh, yes. I totally believe you that. I totally believe that. Unfortunately, we don't get enough chances to be relaxed.
Yes, yes, there's a lot up against us. So I think my struggle being a mother, being someone who works a lot, led to this moment in time where I wanted to do these retreats. I still ask myself, what's the theme? There has to be a theme. Every retreat has a theme, a yoga theme, sunrise themes, Ayurveda theme. And I just said, there is no theme. I want people to be themselves and to contribute in the ways that they find beautiful, and it works. It just worked. I also curate the group that joins the retreat, so I actually interview every single person, and I think about it, it's almost like alchemy, because you have to make sure that this group is going to have synergy. So it's not anonymous signups, it's very diligent conversations with the different people that are going to participate, because you have to make sure this doesn't become a therapy women's circle and people talking about their problems. This is, growth and beauty.
Yeah, yeah. But being who you are and having all this experience, you have a huge amount of people's knowledge. And this is why you are able to get these women together, because you will recognize from one conversation where they come from, what they are made of. Because from being a tour guide, I turned into a life coach because I felt it's my obligation to use all that knowledge that I have and just to learn some tools. Because we can help, no, maybe help is the wrong word, but I want to contribute to making the world a better place. It doesn't really, it's not always the same way. You don't always do this the same way, because sometimes just listening to somebody is enough.
That's such a powerful statement, because a smile and just listening, like you said, can change someone's perspective. Someone was at the retreat and was told they're a good mother. This person has 2 children, and she had never heard that before, and she burst into tears, and she had never been told that she's a good mother. And I think we can change the world person to person, and where we don't need to wait for anyone's approval, or we really have the opportunity to do it at any moment in time. And I hope that these retreats open up people's eyes, because there's also the impact of being around different people. The 12 women there, no one spoke the same mother tongue. So everyone had a different background and spoke English. Different backgrounds, different stories, different countries. And that richness really opens your eyes to empathy. For me, because I actually knew most of the women, almost all of them, it was almost mind-blowing to be around all these different sides of myself, because I saw myself in each one of them. And I was validated by each one of them, because they loved and accepted me as who I was. And so for the first time in my life, all my different sides were received. And for me, that was the biggest gift.
Amazing, amazing. We're already over time, but it doesn't matter, because this is a good conversation. I walk with a friend on a Sunday, and it's funny we were talking about this yesterday, saying that we need to tell each other when we like something about each other. We need to tell each other when somebody looks nice, and not just out of because you want to make a compliment. Don't say it when you don't feel it, but when you genuinely feel that somebody has inspired you, or you do something because somebody else did it before, tell them.
Yes.
It makes, because sometimes people have the feeling that you're copying them, but you're not. I consider it a compliment. I consider it a compliment because, and if somebody tells me, I did this because I saw you doing it, then it's not copying. Then you feel like you have it's inspiration.
Yes, absolutely. And also reminding yourself of the things, there's all this talk about love yourself. And I really have a hard time accepting the way that is phrased. Love yourself first. And there's something about it that seems to me that we're forgetting a big piece of it, which is that you are also from the outside, everything around you is you as well. And so I think that it's important to acknowledge your superpowers as well, and to acknowledge not compliment yourself necessarily, but just to be aware of the things that can impact others, the strengths that you have. It's really nice when friends remind you of them and tell you, so you don't have to. Yeah.
Well, I think this is a perfect ending to a perfect conversation, but I want to put all the links. I think I have them, but we'll make sure that I have all the links in the show notes, how people can get in touch with you for a trip or for that retreat and find out more.
Yes, thank you so much for your time, Elizabeth. This was a wonderful conversation.
Well, thank you so much for contacting me and doing this. Thank you for being on Most Memorable Journeys.
It was a pleasure.
If you enjoy my podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You will